Paul Scholes, he got some views recently, didn't he?
Before anyone says it, no, I'm not going to eat Mrs. Beard's toenails for a video. Oh, I'm watching my best food today. I've seen a few episodes.
I thought that had been like your inspiration.
I had a little bit of a fracas on Twitter with Adam Richmond, the host.
Never.
Shouldn't you be off filming this new TV show instead of talking to internet nobodies like me, you big nipple? Which is what I call. I tweeted the rate my takeaway.
Can I drop you an exclusive?
I'm Big Mix Food.
And I'm Josh Gudgeon.
And welcome back to the Breaking Bread podcast, where each episode we have a good old-fashioned chinwag about some interesting topics, as well as occasionally being joined by a special guest or two. Still waiting on the guests, but we'll get there in the end. How you doing?
Mate, I'm champion. Like, you do catch me out there, because you sit here all chilled, you're ready to go, all cameras rolling. I'm Big Mix Food and welcome back to another... You seem excited. You seem excited by the fact
I am excited.
We're a ranking Spotify podcast.
I know, I thought you were pulling my leg when you told me that. Yeah, what were we, number 25? Or we were number 25
We were number
point?
25, we're creeping up the charts, which is quite surprising considering that we've only been going for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, considering as well the fact that episode number 1 was it was basically just a long-winded story about me soiling my undies.
Well, we had to set the tone, and it's not going to get any better on this episode. But yeah, man, it's exciting that people are enjoying it. I was quite surprised, didn't know what good it looked like, but last couple have gone down pretty well. Yeah,
pretty happy about it so far.
All that being said, mate, we still yet to receive, even though we're ranking, I must add, we are ranking on Spotify. We are yet to get our Spotify deal.
I think maybe you have to sustain maybe a period of time in like the top 20 or something.
I thought like a couple of weeks it'd be like, right, we're going to just send them some cash.
They probably like one of those bags with a dollar sign on it. They're probably going to see what else we're going to churn out and how the longevity of the podcasts before they offer us that. I think.
Mate, rent's due on this place soon. This is like episode 3. We've probably got one more before rent's due. So either you're paying or Spotify's paying.
We'll just keep the landlord at bay.
Some guy actually tweeted. I forgot about this. I haven't mentioned it to you. Some guy actually tweeted saying something like really complimentary about you at Beard Meets Food, blah blah blah, and then put. Well in for keeping Josh in a job.
I'm not sure I could take the credit for that, but yeah.
I didn't reply. I thought the cheek of him. Mate, we're not even earning a penny off this yet. And Beard had put his hand in his pocket, so this is all. This is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I'm paying for it in my presence. You get the brand. You get the brand.
The dimfluencer that you are. Oh dear. Right. I wanted to sort of kick off. We've got quite an exciting episode for this one. We're going to talk about your major league eating career and the idea of being a competitive eater, which sounds really American. Never thought I'd meet anybody in the UK that did it. Never mind in Leeds. But I wanted to talk first about you got a little email, right? off a bit of a keyboard warrior, as it were.
He's actually trying to sell something. That's the thing. I sent this to Josh last night because I found it tickled me. But we're often talking about the things that you get offered and the things that people say to you when you make content on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or wherever. And this dude, I got an email. Like this must be, I don't know, 10 o'clock. You were asleep, so it must have been late. Yeah,
I've got an infant child. I'm asleep by 8 o'clock, but it was late on. Yeah.
It was 10:30 maybe. I get this email, and it says the title of the email is. Beard, your titles are shit. And I thought, okay, that's kind of like a ballsy way to start an email thread.
Fucking cheek of this guy. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you might as well read it. I've forgotten exactly what it says. But
so it starts off, it's not like good evening, good morning. It just says
none
Beard.
None of that.
Your videos are awesome, but ... your titles are shit! ! Which is a bit aggressive. Like there's no pleasantries, no bedside manner. Please let me explain why your awesome content would get double the views minimum, in brackets minimum, so it's like guaranteeing it, with the right title. Common clickbait examples often conform to formats like these. You'll never believe this, blank. How to achieve results using this one weird trick. They didn't know, blank, then this happened. The aim is often to make content seem more enticing than it might actually be. So it's also like, but your content is enticing, but your titles are less enticing than your content is. Let's talk titles when you have time. So that's fair. Speak soon, Paul. Who the fuck is Paul?
Yeah, Paul. If you're listening, I'm not getting in touch. You're lucky I didn't send you a highly mischievous email. But not normally from kind of a mischievous mood, I might reply to people like that and send them something they don't like. But Not like a dick pic or anything. I mean, just like I'll send something back, which is, like a wise ass remark. But yeah, the funny thing about that, well, actually, it's all funny. But the funny thing about that is not only is he trying to sell something, I don't know, but he thinks that after 7 years of creating content on YouTube, I don't know about all these lunatic clickbait channels out there, which title their videos in such a way that the people watch them, even though the content's not good, but my content's good.
Who the fuck is Paul, though? Do you know, like,
I don't know
who's that guy? Like, is it a famous Paul? Has he got like his own famous channel? Is it Paul Scholes? He got some views recently, didn't he?
I would listen to Paul Scholes. Doesn't matter how aggressive he was. I mean, he's into eating too, apparently.
Oh my God, there's one way.
Before anyone says it, no, I'm not going to eat Mrs. Beard's toenails for a video. But yeah, the funny thing about that, on a serious note, is my titles are not clickbaity for a reason, right? Because you don't want to fall into, this is not advice, but like, I don't want to fall into that category of, A, I don't like the idea of clickbait anyway, right? I mean, it's dishonest.
Yeah.
And B, like, I don't want to be like everyone. You see those titles all the time on YouTube, and it would switch me off. Maybe it's an age thing because I'm older.
It doesn't even make sense for your work. Do you know what I mean?
What would I call one? Like, say my last video, I would call it like, what were the examples I gave?
You'll never believe this, blank.
You'll never believe this man eats £5 burger challenge. It's been done before. People will believe it, I think.
Yeah, as soon as they click on your channel, they just see like hundreds of videos. Yeah. They didn't know blank, then this happened. They didn't know I'd shit myself, then I shit myself. That would actually be a good title.
We should have used that for the first Spotify episode, the first podcast episode.
Here's one for you, actually. Those that are listening and watching, can you go and just test it on your Alexa? So can you say, Alexa, play Breaking Bread podcast? Because I tried it this morning, the one in the studio, and it said, playing episode 1 of Breaking Bread podcast. The time Beard shit his pants. And I started playing it. That's a career high for me. That.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're not going to be taking Paul up on his offer?
No, Paul's not even getting a reply.
Cheeky motherfucker. Like, I am gobsmacked at the neck on some people. We might be wrong. He might be like an absolute YouTube genius. What's Mr. Beast's real name? It's not Paul, is it?
I don't know what his real name is, actually.
Oh, it's Jimmy. Jimmy, that's what he's called.
His real name is Jimmy?
I'm pretty sure he's called Jimmy.
Jimmy Beast, or has he actually got a real
Jimmy
surname?
off South Park. Jimmy.
Was that Timmy?
Oh, shit. Yeah.
I didn't even really watch South Park that much, and I know that.
Close enough. On to the next topic of business. It must be a slow news day, because I saw a title today on the news. Breaking news, so it must have been slow. Joe Biden breaks wind in front of Camilla.
That's like, what is that, on the Sun or the Daily Star?
No, this was on TV. This was like
on TV.
News, on TV this morning on news, and so like this talking about it for 10 minutes. I was gobsmacked to me. I'm like, what the fuck? How's this on TV? Then they got a yoga expert on, so like a yogi came on and like she then spent 10 minutes saying how she encourages people to fart in her classes and how it's fine for Joe Biden to be like boffing them around at COP26.
Well, I mean, he's an old bloke now. There's some kind of muscular laxity when you get to that age. I'm not going to blame him, and we all do it. I probably wouldn't do it in public. But I mean, the most embarrassing part about that is that it was covered on TV news for 10 minutes.
But then they pulled, so like Yogi got off then, I'll brush my teeth, came back, Yogi's off, Dr. Hillary's on, and he's on a 20-minute rant about...
Is he still around, Dr. Hillary Jones?
Yeah, Dr. Hillary Jones.
The only thing I remember useful that came out of his mouth was the meningitis test, with the tumbler. So if you got a rash and you want to test that it's meningitis, if it's meningitis and not something else, then...
Acne.
Then you have to roll a tumbler on there, which I thought was good advice, but that's all I remember him for. That and being called Hillary, which isn't a very common man's name.
True that.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. That's the only thing that I really remember from him. Because again, I don't watch news like ever. It would just happen to be on this morning. We turned the TV on, and they were talking about farting. I thought this will be a good topic for the podcast. So I thought I'll just see how this plays out.
Well, if that's like on the regular TV, they're talking about farting for 10 minutes. I feel less bad about talking about shit my pants for 20 minutes.
I know, what the fuck are we? There's me like getting on my high horse. You're on your high horse.
Yeah, but like you expect that here. You don't expect that from real like terrestrial TV news, do you?
Right, so the topic of this actual podcast, so what we actually really want to talk about was your competitive eating and really how you actually got started in the space of competitive eating.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we're doing this, I want to make sure that we make this entertaining, right? So I'm not going to be talking about eating in every episode. When we get some guests in, I tweeted the rate my takeaway. We're hoping he gets in, right? So
can I drop you an exclusive?
Yeah.
So I literally, you must have, obviously, this is what it's taken. The top, like that one there, can you see it? Outlook. Hi, Josh. Here's my contact number, Danny, rate takeaway.
So is he going to come on?
Well, hey, he's actually messaged us now.
So like, Josh messaged him 2 weeks ago, right? And he probably thought, who the fuck is this guy?
Who the fuck is that?
Pie-faced him, right?
There's me and Paul going, who the fuck is that guy?
And then I just dropped him a tweet like, a minute ago saying, come on the show. And because people asked for it. So like, if you want to get someone on the show, we'll try. If it's somebody super famous, probably, we might not get them, but hopefully we can get him on. But yeah, what I was getting at is, we want to get some guests on, but a lot of people asked after episode number 1 for me to talk a little bit about competitive eating in general. So I don't know if maybe people will find that interesting.
It's a super weird niche that like most Brits wouldn't even consider. So it does feel very American. And I think it probably only got brought to light with Man vs. Food back in the day, which probably is one of the most successful travel was it on like Travel Channel?
Travel Channel? I don't even know that. I don't think I've ever seen anything else on Travel Channel ever.
Yeah, I think that was where it is. And it's probably the most successful show that they've ever had. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Do you know they've rebooted it recently with a dude called Casey?
Yeah, I never actually used to watch the original. I'd seen a few episodes, but I never. Oh,
really?
People are often surprised. I wasn't like, I'm watching Man vs. Food today. I've seen a few episodes.
I thought that had been like your inspiration.
No. I like the show. Like when I've seen, if there's nothing on TV and I've actually got a bit of time to watch TV, I might put it on. But I had a little bit of a fracas on Twitter with the Adam Richman, the host.
Never.
So like I kind of went off it, I think.
What happened?
It was man, I'm trying to think back. It was something over nothing, but like somebody I think had he put up a tweet I think of some. This is probably about 2 years ago of something that he had, maybe like an episode that he had filmed of Man v Food.
Yeah.
And he said something like, good times. And somebody, not me, somebody had kind of tagged me and said, Beard Meats Food would do that in 10 minutes or whatever. And I just kind of liked their tweet, I think, out of kindness, I thought, thanks for thinking of me or whatever. Yeah. And he replied and he was quite antagonistic. He said, I can't remember verbatim, so I don't want to say this is what he actually said, but he said something like, I don't care how much this guy eats, go away, I'm making better TV shows. And I thought...
The cheek of him.
And he tagged me in as well, and I was like, listen, dude, I didn't send you this tweet. I'm not saying I'm a big shot because I can eat food, that's not me. And then it kind of went on a little bit, and in the end I'm thinking, surely he's got better stuff to do with his time. So I said, look, shouldn't you be going... I said, look, shouldn't you be off filming this new TV show instead of talking to internet nobodies like me, you big nipple? Which is what I call him. And a lot of people like that reply. But yeah, I'm sure he's a Spurs fan, and I'm Arsenal, right? So there was going to be some bad blood there, but he started it.
You big nipple. That was your response.
I called him you big nipple or you absolute nipple. Or
that sounds like a Paddy the Baddie response. He called somebody a mushroom recently and a lizard. So you big nipples up there.
Yeah, I don't know, but I wasn't going to mention that actually. But
how dare he say that? Because it's not so this is the difference between television and what you do. So he's just a presenter. He eats a bit of food. They put some nice music and it's all produced to make him look really nice.
I didn't care. The weird thing was he put out a tweet saying, it was a good time, and then somebody else says, Beard Mixed Food would do this. Just, people you can ignore that, right? Doesn't mean anything. But I think it was the fact that he then said, I don't care if you've how much you can eat, or if you've been to Nathan's, nobody cares. And I'm like, well, okay, I didn't tweet you in the first place. It wasn't me.
Adam Richman, obviously you'll be watching this because we're ranking on Spotify, or you'll be listening to it at least. So if you want to sort of air this out, you are more than welcome to come to Leeds, come to the studio,
come on the show, Adam,
and we'll talk about it. Because often when you read things or you write things, it can be taken out of context. It's a bit like an email, and it can sometimes come across abrupt, but when really.
Yeah, I mean,
there's good sentiment behind it.
Most people know I'm not certainly not a confrontational kind of guy.
I saw you on the train with that dude.
But that was he started it. I probably have a quick trip switch, right? But yeah, that was odd. He seems like a nice guy though. I like the show. I've got nothing against him apart from the fact that he's a Spurs fan. I can tolerate that.
I do like it, and the show. I thoroughly enjoyed the show when it was on.
He deleted the tweet though as well, which that shows you where the culpability is. So
can we just get a little description coming up on screen now that says what culpability actually means for the rest of us?
The fact that he deleted the tweet, I think, showed that he was the guilty party and being the aggressor in the little tete-a-tete we had.
Beautiful. So back to competitive eating. Now we've just hammered Adam Richman for 5 minutes. That'll be a nice little clip for our Clips channel. Check it out and go subscribe if you haven't already. Take us back to the day when you realised that, you know what, I can eat something. Back when, I guess there was less facial hair, you were probably a little bit smaller, which is surprising because you're like a miniature man anyway. Take us back to the point where you thought, as a little human, I can eat copious amounts of food and I can probably get better at it. Yeah. What was the year? Come on. Paint a picture for us. It was
like 7 years ago, so it would be like what, 2000, end of 2014, maybe beginning of 2015. Yeah. And I was sat there as a regular sized human of 5 feet 10 inches. I mentioned the story a lot, but like I essentially got into it because I used to like pretty much live in the gym, right? I've mentioned this before, and I did a really long diet where I got really, really lean, just for the sake of it, really, just to see if I could. And then after I was done with that, Mrs. Beard said to me, she's like, I've seen this food challenge at this place in York, and you had to go and eat like 12 burgers, a pound of fries, and 2 pints of milkshake, or something like that. And I went and did it, and I just thought it was fun, you know, and I didn't have a camera with me at that point. And I think only one person had done it before, maybe. And so I kind of thought, well, that's decent, you know. And I did a couple more just for fun, you know. And like on a weekend, we would just go travel somewhere and scoff a bunch of food, see if I could do it. And it turned out more often than not I could. And then, I got to the point where I realized that you could, there were ways to get better at it. And I think it all stemmed from the fact that, again, a lot of people know I eat one meal a day. And I've done that from, I don't know, like my mid-20s at the latest, I think. And obviously that gives you higher than average stomach capacity. But I think it's probably useful as well to kind of clearly define that there's a difference between competitive eating and doing food challenges, right? For me anyway. So a lot of people ask me about what is competitive eating like.
Yeah.
So if I shoot YouTube videos, which is my thing, right? I've mentioned this before, like what gets me up in the morning is just this desire to make content which people find entertaining, and obviously it's anchored by food because that's pretty much my only talent in life.
That and music.
Yeah, that a little. But yeah, so that's what keeps my channel going, right? But that's not competitive eating, right? If you're eating a food challenge at a restaurant or whatever, to me that's just, you can eat a lot of food, right? And you can make it entertaining. That's great, right? A lot of people do that. Competitive eating is entirely separate. To me, competitive eating has to be competitive, right? So if you start doing food challenges, you could change your Twitter bio to say competitive eater, but unless you actually enter events and compete with other people, yeah, that's what I think of as competitive eating. So that came quite a lot later, when I got into that and signed the contract and stuff. And I think that's what we're maybe going to chat a little bit more about, because I think people know what I do when it comes to doing food challenges at restaurants, or if I'm eating, what was the last thing I did that was McDonald's related? I don't know, probably a bunch of apple pies or something like that. Yeah. They're all for a laugh, and
that's also something that people can sort of like test themselves against.
Yeah. But that's supposed to be fun, right? And entertaining. Yeah. Whereas people, I think, might want to know what the ins and outs of actually competing with, you Joey Chestnut, Matt Stoney, and all these. They're not household names, but a lot of people now will know them. Given that we all see stuff on YouTube these days.
So how does a person go from starting out doing food challenges at restaurants and realising they've got a bit of a talent? They might watch a Beard video and go, Beard can do 16 chicken nuggets and I can do 17, so I could probably have a dabble at that. Like, how does
16 chicken nuggets?
Those first things. Or they might watch one of your most recent videos and go, why can he eat 60 pounds of black cod on top of, what were it? Whitefish mayonnaise. That's one of the most grossest videos. I know we're segueing and we're terrible at this, but like that is the grossest video I've ever watched.
That was a Larry David sandwich. I'm a big fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm, so I wanted to recreate the sandwich. There's an episode where he has a sandwich named after him, right, at this place called Leo's Deli, but it's a terrible sandwich. It's like whitefish salad, sablefish, which is like an oily type of cod, and the capers and cream cheese. But
you know what made me feel sick, and I'm sure everyone else that has watched it and are listening can relate to this, is that you made this sort of like whitefish salad, which is like whitefish mayonnaise and like it's like almost like tuna mayo, and then you put this literally steaming hot black cod on top of it. And I just thought that's apps like if that's cold and that's hot and soggy, because it's going to be soggy because you didn't. It looked
that was probably my fault. I'm not sure like if you had it made in a deli, they would probably let the sable fish like.
As soon as you started eating it, it all over your beard and that, like, oh my god!
I knew that was a bit of a chance of that video because you never really know how stuff like that's going to pan out. But I don't know
what does Mrs. Beard say to this? Like, you're going home stinking now. Your face stinks like fish, and you've got to sit there like boffing fishy farts out, and just poor Mrs. Beard sat there like, oh, how have I ended up with this guy?
Safe to, I would say she's used to it now, right? We've been together a long time, so yeah. I showered immediately upon getting home. Don't worry. Took a few rinses though to get the smell out my bed. But anyway, yeah. There's a lot of people that get into competitive eating start by just doing some food challenges and stuff like that, you know, or they're into like. They just eat a lot of food. Typically, actually, people that all the maybe top 20 in Major League Eating now all come from some kind of athletic background, pretty much, maybe a few exceptions, which is partly what leads you to it because you have an elevated caloric need, right? And you typically have a better understanding of nutrition if you're into some, like I can think of, there's Ronnie Hartman, who's like a professional wrestler. There's Nick Wary, who's like a bodybuilder. I don't know if he's like professional, whatever. He's massive. There are people that do like Ironmans. A guy called Derek Jacobs does like a bunch of like Ironmans and stuff like that. So people typically come from an athletic background. But yeah, you typically start off by just eating a lot of food. Then most people that start doing food challenges at restaurants and try win a free meal, free t-shirts and stuff, it becomes kind of like a bit of a hobby, right? Yeah. Because there are also in America there are a lot of places where you can win money too, not just prizes, right? So I've done a couple in like pizza challenges in America where I've won like $200 for.
You could make a good living off that, couldn't you?
So well, a little bit of side cash, right? Yeah. If you're doing food challenges and you're doing the ones where they actually pay out, which they're common, and you barely ever get them over here, but out there, so people tend to do it as a bit of a hobby, right? And then if they just enjoy it and they've got that kind of competition in them, they might think, hey, maybe I could get into doing the contest. Because for me, I didn't even know competitive eating existed. When you think about, and when I think of competitive eating, I'm thinking like Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest, right? So a lot of people listening to this probably don't even know about the actual professional competitive eating, see like the sport like element of it. Yeah. But if you do Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest, there's a crowd of 35,000 people watching you eat hot dogs, right? Which is bizarre. Like I realized that.
And we're on ESPN, wasn't it? ESPN or like some sort of sports network.
It's on ESPN, yeah, and it's on BT Sport over here.
Because I think what I could say to that is like the only time I've ever seen it is probably on Man vs Food, and it almost looks like underwhelming. Like. You might see 5 people that are just average Joes trying to do like maybe a hot dog eating contest on Man vs Food, and just basically in a gazebo in a tent like a raised stage that's probably a half foot tall, which you need so people can see them. And you go, all right, yeah, Dave from down the road is just eating 5, and then somebody else has done 6. You're like, all right, so that's competitive eating, not ESPN, BT Sports. Like.
So most people, a lot of people in America will know that because it's on TV every Independence Day. And it's even on TV over here now, right? So some people might be aware of it, but I wasn't. I'd never even heard of this hot dog contest. But that's the Super Bowl of competitive eating, right? There's a season normally in like pre-COVID times. There's a season of like 40 different events of varying size and scale. So it's like a real kind of piece of machinery, that arbitrates it and everything, and it's like a governing body and stuff like that. But I think. For me, I always explain it like this whenever I've done like interviews with people or podcasts and whatnot before. Like if you wake up tomorrow and you discover like by some quirk of fate that you're really good at something nobody cares about, right? So let's say after this, we go play, I don't know, badminton, right? Or darts. Well, not that, people actually like darts, but squash, ping pong, chess, tiddlywinks, whatever, lacrosse. Right, I don't know who the world champions are at those sports, right? But if you discover by some quirk of fate you have a natural ability for it, and then you realize that there is a way you can get better at it. If you have like a natural competitiveness, right, you might think, well, let's see if I can mix it, right? And it's the same with eating, right? Like as soon as I realized that there's this scene, right, where you can compete against the best people in the world at this thing, however daft this thing is, right? And you can win lots of money, you can win prizes and stuff like that. And there's massive crowds at these events. I'm naturally competitive, especially since I stopped playing like football when I was in my kind of late 20s. Sunday league and five-a-side and stuff. There's something a competition in me, right? So when I discovered that existed, I thought, well, let's try and let's see if I can throw down and compete. And I kind of went from there, really.
Well, I mean, so what did your first season look like then? So obviously, what's the rookie season look like as an athlete that you are?
It's hard to explain. I think a lot of I almost wish that like I'd had a camera crew with me for it. Just I think because people would find it interesting to see what happens behind the scenes. In fact, I got a message, an email not long ago from a video production company that did work for Netflix, and they were asking me about like if I do like a follow along thing. But that was like before. Well, it was in the middle of COVID, and I was like, well, there are no contests right now, but maybe they'll be back in touch. I don't know. But
if anybody's doing a Netflix, like I'm filming that,
yeah, I'll get you it. I'll get you in Georgia.
Mate, that Netflix money's got to be better than Spotify money, hasn't it? Let's be honest. Tiger King is balling in prison.
No, if it's like if it's like TV, man, they'll try to pay me nothing. Yeah. But so the way it works is pretty much like this. So typically, you can approach Major League Eating, right, which is think of it as like NBA or Major League Baseball or something like that, which is a business, but also a body which officiates and controls the sport of competitive eating. Now, I'm not the guy that's going to convince you it's a sport, but that's at the elite level. That's how people treat competitive eating, right? You talk about a top 10, certainly a top 5, but you can approach them, or they can approach you and offer you like a contract, right? And it's a heavy contract. You have to sign this contract to compete in their events, which you waive like image rights and stuff. So like there've been a couple of times, twice actually, that I've been asked to do like a TV show in America, like just a one-off kind of a performance thing. Yeah. And I've said to them, like, you have to run it by Major League Eating first because they own my image rights in North America. I'm okay over here, right? But and then they've become like disinterested in it because of that, because MLE might want to take a cut or whatever. But to me, that's no big deal because I'm not in it for the money, and I don't really worry about any limitations it might pose. I get to compete in these contests, right? So you sign a contract, and it's a long contract. You committed for 3 years, so you can't do any other kind of contests with other, amateur things. So you could, I could walk to maybe an amateur contest in a pinting contest or something, a local village in America, and probably win it, and maybe win £100 or whatever. But you're not allowed to do that if you're a Major League Eating athlete, if you want to call it that. I don't know. But if you compete with them, you can't do that, right? So there's a bunch of limitations, and once you sign, then you start doing events, right? So most events, they'll be posted they tend to happen at the same time of the season, right? Season runs pretty much from March through to about October, November sometimes.
That's a long season, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, they tend to just avoid the really cold months, I think. I think there might be one contest in December this year, maybe. But typically March through to, late or early winter. But and if a contest comes up you want to do, they'll post a newsletter out to all the eaters and be like, right, this contest is coming up. This is the prize money. This is these are rules, etc. This is the food, and you'll say I want to do it. And then based on your ranking, wherever you ranked, you might get knocked back from a contest if you're not high enough up the rankings. And there's only certain that's never happened to me because I'm ranked 11th, right? So typically,
get in here, start windmilling, number 11 in the world.
Well, it's not really that good, 11, but so if most contests have about 10 places at them, right? So unless everyone in the top 10 is turning up, then maybe I get knocked back, but it's not happened to me yet. And then you start doing competitions pretty much.
So do they, obviously when that newsletter comes out, they're saying, right, it's oysters or whatever, and that means that, right, I need to start practicing for this one. Is that the idea? They give you you don't know what's coming up, but then 3 weeks ahead, however long. Yeah, you
pretty much know the big events are going to pretty much happen every year, right? So oysters pretty much in the normal, again, like pre-COVID, post-COVID, you would expect the oyster contest to be in May. I think that one is. Right. There's croquettes in March, and there's going to be Nathan's in July, Poutine at the end of the year, and all the other ones. But yeah, you never really know that they're going to happen until the event's agreed and stuff.
Do they like fly you out then? Do they pay for your flight out and say how does it work?
It depends on the like the size of the. So Nathan's, you get flown out and you get accommodation stuff, and some of the big ones will fly you out if you're a decent enough draw, for the crowd to want to see. But like most of them that I did in 2019, which is my first season and only season so far, was I was on my own dime, right? So I never made money from it, even if I did well, right? So like because my goal was like to place at contests, which means come in the money places, right?
Yeah.
So most contests will pay first down to at least fourth usually, and then some of the bigger contests might pay fifth and sixth. But to me, I always want to come like top four, because then I think, well, at least I've won a bit of cash, because the most I won in 2019, I think I won $800 at the Oysters contest because I came third, which is my highest finish at that point. But like it's in New Orleans, right? So like the plane, and I took Mrs. Beard, right? So the plane tickets were.
So you'll spend more on that in garlic bread.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's no joke. So yeah, but I'm not really in it for the money. I'm there for. Yeah. Like, for me, it's an opportunity to like meet people because fans will come out and.
I suppose you're quite lucky in that sense that you've got your other. I mean, YouTube's your own rights, and you earn a bit of money off that. So like you can afford to do that as a full-time job as well as then go do this, where I guess some of the eaters won't be, they'll be working full-time, will they?
Yeah, that's the thing is like, if you think, people often ask kind of like, how much does a competitive eater make? Which is a bit like asking, what does a tennis player make? It depends how good you are. Yeah. So like somebody like Joey has a YouTube channel, but he doesn't upload to it regularly. He's not, my main thing is making YouTube videos, right? Yep. And I'm a competitive eater second to that.
And a podcast host full-time.
And a podcast co-host, yeah. But so Joey's like the opposite of me, right? So he's the majority of his money he makes from competing at contests, but that's because he's the best in the world. If people don't know who Joey Chestnut is, by the way, he's like, imagine like the Roger Federer of eating or something. He wins. He doesn't win every single event, but he's ranked number one, and he'll win lots of prize money. If you think about Joey, especially because he's domestically, I've got to fly out there, right, to every contest. If you're Joey, you got to drive there or be driven there, and he'll be chauffeured out to every event probably because he's the best, right?
Roll out the red carpet. He's like the Ronaldo of
exactly, right. So he can go to an event like, if there are 40, he won't do every one, but let's say there are 30 events in a year and they pay out $5,000, or Nathan's like 10, 12 grand, whatever that is.
That was my next question. What is the highest purse for a competitive?
Nathan's is the biggest one, and the purse for that is actually, it's weird because Nathan's is the only one which is divided between a men and women's contest, which is strange. I don't know why they do it that way. But so I think 12,000 quid to win Nathan's, I think, right, in both the men and the women's, and then it'll pay out like well to second. Like I did fucking awful at Nathan's, right, my first time, and I came like 10th out of 20. Which I mean is probably dictates my ranking quite well. I'm ranked 11th, right? But I did really bad. Like I could have done way better than I did. But even for that, I think I got $300 for coming like 10th. So I got it in the mail. I'm like, why did I get this? I did so bad. But like, so first, second, third, it's thousands, right? Yeah. But like a lot of some of the smaller contests still play out well. Like I think Poutine was 5,000 or something like that. So like if you're somebody that can definitely, you can go to an event and definitely win it or definitely be in the top two, then you could make, because Joey's like, that's his full-time thing, right?
Wow.
But most of the, like outside the top three or top five at least, top three even, you can't make a living from it, because expenses even aside, you're not going to be able to, unless you're really, really good. You can't, most people can't compete with Joey, and there's a guy called Jeff Esper, Darren Breeden, Matt Stoney. But even, I mean, like Matt's, you can at least beat Matt, right? But there are most of the people in the top three are kind of almost untouchable.
Matt Stoney's coining it on both sides though. Like his videos on YouTube will do like millions of views overnight, and then obviously if he can rank as well in the top places, he can earn on both sides of it. Yeah,
I mean, to me, it's miraculous that Matt even comes to that speaks to his character actually, because he's such a nice guy, Matt. But I remember I asked him, I think at the Poutine Contest in 2019, I said like, why do you still do contests, Matt? And I think he genuinely does it just to meet people. The people that watch his channel, it's an opportunity for him to, like, in a controlled environment, he's doing some eating, right? So people can watch him and support him on stage. Then afterwards, he can say, spend a little bit of time with fans and stuff, which is nice. But yeah, for him, I mean, the prize money compared to what he will be earning on YouTube is absolutely minuscule, So, but a lot of people that do it because they have a passion to compete at something. I think.
Well, with the passion, and obviously the passion to compete and compete at a high level would come with the training. So what does training look like for an event? Because I remember David Blaine did his water trick, didn't he? Like where a gallon of water and some petrol, and he spat the petrol out. And I thought, without the petrol, the gallons of water is what in my head I think.
I've never seen that David Blaine trick.
Have you not?
No.
Yeah, he basically necks a gallon of water and then drinks some sort of like fuel. And obviously the fuel is, it sits on top of the water, so then he can spit that out and spit flames. Then then has to get rid of all this water in his body. It's a common, it's a thing.
Okay. No, for me, it depends. Like everyone trains in like different ways, and there's some stuff that people do which is weird and dangerous that like I wouldn't get into. But to me, there are many elements of people think of eating as eating, right?
Yeah.
You think of you sitting down and eating your dinner or whatever, or your breakfast, brunch, whatever, and they think of that as just eating, right? But the act of eating, especially in a competitive environment, comes down to like a number of different disciplines, right? So the first, like the foundation is having enough space in your stomach, right? Or having a stomach which can expand to the extent that you can put enough food in it that you can compete with other people that can do that, right? So that's kind of capacity training. That's something that you like if you do what I do, like on YouTube, you especially having done it for so many years, you kind of sustain it's not a lot of people think it's like a weird, like a God-given or biologically given talent that you realize at the age of 18, like, oh, I can eat a lot. It's not, it's just like a daft adaptation, right? So for me, that's because I did one meal a day, right? And one meal a day of like vegetables and salad and stuff. So that naturally expands your stomach compared to somebody who eats, breakfast, lunch, dinner, short intervals, small amounts. So that's something I've always kind of had and just built. When I go into a contest, I would just try and build on that, right? So I would eat I would do larger. The videos that I do are probably more geared towards eating more amounts of, larger amounts of food. Yeah. But I think for me, I tend to sustain that. Didn't
you describe it as like an elastic band? Your stomach's like an elastic band. But I imagine your stomach is a bit like a saggy, I imagine like a saggy elastic band.
That's what it is, yeah. It's basically like if you when you have those old elastic bands you find at your grandma's house, which have been used like 1,000 times, and they're a little bit less taut than say a brand new elastic band. That's pretty much it, right?
So you've just got a saggy, flappy one.
Yeah, well, it's in more ways than one. But it's funny though because most of these adaptations are temporary as well. Because I remember like the highest capacity I had was right before the 2019 Poutine Contest, which is the one which I mentioned a lot because it was probably I didn't place that well. I think I came 6th. I think.
And how much did you eat?
I ate 16.5 pounds of poutine in 10 minutes. This is what I was going to get onto. That like I couldn't, if you put half of that in front of me now, that'd be a struggle, right? So that shows you that, but that's because to me, I would never train to do like daft videos.
I don't think I like. Let's just touch on this for a second. It's 16.5 pounds. So like in the UK, what's that in kilograms? Just so we've got like an idea in kilograms roughly.
It's about 7.6, I think.
7.6 kilograms.
So it's like 2 newborn babies, pretty much.
So that's I would know, like when you've told me that before, I've not quite understood it. Like you can't really picture what that actually looks like until I had a baby that was like 6 pounds, right? And you've done 16 pounds. So like there's a human there, just freshly born, 6 pounds. You've done like nearly 3 of that human. Then you go, fucking hell, that's a lot of food. That.
Yeah, but that was a whole. In fact, I almost think that contest kind of killed my hunger, if you'll excuse the pun, a little bit for contest because. Like I think people often look at what I do, right? They'll look at my YouTube videos and be like, "That's unhealthy."
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you do a food challenge at like a restaurant's 8 pounds or whatever, and then you account for the eating badly by 5 days a week, under eating and eating good nutritious food. That's good with respect. I know enough about the human body that doesn't do any harm, right? Any real harm. If you think about the mechanical effects of eating 16 pounds of food. That's a totally different matter, right? So oftentimes, when it comes to doing contests, people laugh at this when I put it like this, but I certainly treat it like maybe a boxer or a UFC fighter, right? They don't stay fully peak trained, do they? All year.
Yeah.
Our boy Paddy Pimblett puts on like 30 pounds between each event, but like I wouldn't do it full time, right?
No.
Because it puts a lot of stress on your body. So like for me, I would build up to like a contest coming up in a month. Okay, I might build up to it, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's not so much the effects it might have on your heart or like it's unhealthy food. If you think about putting 16 pounds of something inside your body, that's naturally going to mechanically have an effect on, like, think about your organs being pushed and stuff like that. So that stuff is like...
And like, I know I might have mentioned it once or twice in the podcast that you are pretty small. Like you're not a big human. So to have 16, like I'm 6'2", right? And you couldn't imagine trying to carry even I'm like, I wouldn't want to carry a baby. But for you to be the size that you are, to put 16 pounds of anything with it actually seems unbelievable to say that you that one organ can stretch that. What about after that then? What about the effects that, like, obviously from, like, we're getting technical here, like the chemicals, like you'll have insulin spikes and stuff from like the sugar or the salts, or like...
To me, it would depend on so there are things I know I can do safely. So like I would never do an ice cream eating contest, right? Never. Right. Like if to me there's like the World Ice Cream Eating Championships, because you're gonna have to do tons of it because there's no technique involved, right? And the amount of sugar in it is going to be absolutely insane. So to me, I would never. You'd have to do like 2.5 gallons of ice cream to win that.
But you've done big sort of sugary content, just videos before. Like, what's the effects of, like? I'm sure I saw a video where you did a dairy milk bar that were like this big. Yeah. What was the effects of on the body after that? Just as an example.
So like sugar is the one thing you that really I think is potentially dangerous in the short term, right? But unless you exceed the LD50 for table sugar, you're not going to die.
What's LD50?
So LD50 is how they measure like something which is poisonous to the human body, right? So like LD50, like the chance of, I think they measure it in rats, right? But the chance that means there's a 50% you dying if you consume X amount of something, and you would have to eat a lot of sugar for that to happen, right? But I would never do anything. I'm not an idiot, right? Although people might look at me and think, oh, he's a YOLO, right? I know enough about like how the human body works that I'm not gonna kill myself just for eating some food, right? But like if you eat sugar, the worst effect is like there's immediately you're hot, right? Because of the amount of sugar that you're taking in, and then you have a huge crash afterwards because your energy peaks, and then once that, and you just feel terrible. It's hard to articulate sugar, but like, I mean, most contests aren't really sweet things, so.
What about like salty things then? Because like obviously then cramping and dehydration and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you get cramp a lot. After poutine, I had a lot of cramp because it's. I mean, poutine is fries, cheese curds, and gravy, right? And there's a lot of salt in that, especially the gravy. So I remember like actually when I got back to my hotel room afterwards, you know where you put your socks on? So that, and the top part's elastic.
Yeah. There
was like an indentation of where my sock was, right? Because all the sodium goes and the water, right? Because for every if you're consuming something with a lot of sodium in it, then you hold water.
Yeah.
And especially with carbohydrate too, for every gram of carbohydrate you eat, I think you retain something like 4 milliliters of water, like in tissue, right? So like I had a big indentation in my calf, right? But I think the thing is people often would think, hear that and think, oh man, that's terrible. Yeah, but it's no different in my mind than say if you're an MMA fighter, it's not healthy for you to get kneed in the fucking head repeatedly. It's not healthy for you to get your arm broken. It all comes down to, I think, common sense, right? And if you think, okay, I can ramp up to this event and I can do this one event, and I'm going to feel dreadful after it, but it's for the sake of competing in something. And it's maybe something I think I did 8 contests in 2019. So not that many.
Yeah.
The after effects are pretty bad. Actually, poutine wasn't too, apart from the salt, that one was, despite the fact that was the most I'd ever eaten, that wasn't that bad because it's mostly carbohydrate. So it digests really easy. That's funny because most people think like, bread or chips or whatever is hard because it swells up, but it's easy to digest. Stuff like meat is the hardest.
Yeah. Well, what's the worst after effect that you've had from any challenge or any competition? Like what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
Probably the worst thing ever happened to me was it wasn't doing a contest. It was I did like 13 pints of Ben and Jerry's. I think this was a long time ago. I don't know why I thought it was gonna be a good idea.
After you just referenced ice cream before.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the reasons why, because I remember finishing 13 pints of Ben and Jerry's, right? And I'm like, oh, that's a cool video. And then I got up to kind of get out of my seat at the table where I was filming, and my actual quads went into cramp. Right, so like it's normal for me to get cramp in my calf or you know like my forearm or whatever.
That's pretty common, isn't it? But
like these went. So I actually sit down, and I sat down like they were in constant cramp for like. And I remember I was like, Lins, I can't get up, and that's just the effect of like they say cramp is it's predominantly you know like chemical imbalance in your muscles, but it's I think whenever I eat a lot of sugar, I get severe cramp, right? But yeah, you would never want to do that because that's kind of bordering on like that's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, well, what's Mrs. Beard say to that? Because I know like if I've gone out on a night out, for example, and I might have had a few too many drinks, and you know you feel sorry for yourself on the sofa the day after, and Mrs. like that's your own fault. Like own that.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean she's not sympathetic. No. But it's rare to me that I feel like that. But a lot of people say to me, they'll be like, "Oh, can you do like an aftermath video?" Like a lot of other eating channels, they'll do like aftermath videos, and I'm like, to me that's just a gimmick. There is no aftermath. You feel a bit lethargic, you know. Yeah. And even when I did the Poutine Contest, like I said, that's the most I've ever eaten. Like I felt lousy afterwards, and the worst part I think almost there was that there was a big queue. Like there's like 20 people waiting there, and I'm thinking at first I'm like these must be to meet Matt right backstage, and they weren't. It was like I mean maybe they spoke to Matt or whatever as well, but they were queuing up to like get a picture with me and talk to me and stuff. Matt probably had a bigger queue of like 300 people or something, but I was so I thought oh man like you feel like pretty bad after a contest, right? Because it's not only just the fact that you have a lot of food in you and you feel a bit lousy. It takes lots of energy. You feel like you've just done like a sprint or something. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I need to come across really, like I'm enthusiastic with these people when I feel terrible, you know.
Oh my God.
And I did to be fair, because I was absolutely buzzed after that contest because that was the one where I mention all the time, but that was the one where I beat Matt right in head-to-head competition. So it didn't matter to me that because I'd eaten so much food, I was thinking I'd never be able to eat that amount. Afterwards, I was on a bit, like, even though I didn't do that well, rush. I was like, because I was thinking like I never thought I would do that, you know, especially my first season. So like I felt, I imagine like after any kind of athlete has done something that they're happy with,
you're riding the high.
You kind of feel a bit of a buzz. Yeah, I remember walking back to the hotel actually afterwards because I was probably like half a mile away from where the contest happened, and I'm walking like with this dry poutine in my beard, God. And it's all over my because you get a bunch of debris, right? And if they'll deduct your debris and stuff, so it's all over my jeans and stuff. And I'm just walking through Toronto, like in the middle of Toronto, like there's all these office buildings and stuff. And I'm there wearing this like orange like beanie hat thing, like this ridiculous outfit, and I'm just covered in poutine. People probably thought it was. I
bet you were dead sexy, Mrs. Beard. I bet she couldn't wait to jump on you. Yeah, congratulations.
Well, luckily she wasn't there.
Oh, she not.
She was watching at home though. It was on. They streamed it on because I think they recorded it for local TV in Toronto, but they were streaming it, and the coverage was actually really good. You got me I did like a little dance on the way out because I was the only contest I've ever been booed at. I don't know if it's like a Commonwealth thing because I was like a British. So like the number they introduce all the eaters, right? And Matt goes out and Joey goes out and it was like, because they know him and stuff. And then I think Darian went out before me and he's like the number one ranked eater in Canada, right?
He's the guy that he's met with recently as well.
Yeah. So he's like he's a home boy, right? And everyone's like, yeah. So the crowd goes up. I'm like, oh, that's nice for Darian, right? Because everyone knows Matt and Joey are going to get the biggest cheers and stuff, and maybe Mickey. And then... so I come out and they're like, "Oh, you're from Britain's number one competitive eater," which is how they always introduce me, right? And I come out and they're like, "Boo, boo!" I'm not sure if it's like some kind of leftover residual hatred from the whole Commonwealth thing. But
was it intimidating? Did it put you off? Or?
Nah, man, that contest was the best. Even though it wasn't the best I did, it was my favorite. I like that more than I like Nathan's, even though the crowd was, I don't know, maybe 1/5 the size, probably not even that.
Yeah.
But it was weird because I started that season really well because you have to remember, I went into that season because I'll tell you a couple of the motivations for why I started doing MLE, because not everyone does, right? There's a lot of people that have eating channels on YouTube. Very few of them actually compete in Major League Eating. And for me, it was not only the fact that I'm competitive, but also the fact that you always get people in the comments, right, who will say like, you suck, right? You're not as quick as this guy, or you shit. Like, because I'm naturally not that quick of an eater, right?
You suck.
Yeah.
You suck, man.
And it was also a time, I remember in 2019, when people were faking videos all the time, right? So you would get like, people would say like on my comments like, oh, this is fake, right? And everyone in the eating scene, especially Major League Eating, knows what channels fake their videos, right? And they can't do it in real life. But I'm not going to say because I'm not digging people out. But like you would get by association almost, you would get people in your comments saying this is fake, you know. And I remember thinking, well, you know what? Let's go out there and throw down with somebody in front of an audience with refereed events and stuff, and I'll fucking show people, you know, what I can do. And so that one was great for me because after that contest and after that video went up, I very rarely got people saying, oh, you know, Matt Stoney could do it quicker, or Joey Chestnut could do it quicker, or these are fake. Nobody says that anymore.
So you just link it. You're like,
yeah, I'm just like, go watch me eat like 60 hour pounds, you know. Not that I'm not trying to be a big shot. It's just eating food, you know.
Mate, that's your like this is your career we're talking about. It's like, what's the pinnacle of your career? You know, it's like when I think about what's the pinnacle of my career and all the amazing videos that I've made for all these massive organisations at like Man United or Badminton England. But I always say, it's the garlic bread song, right?
That was great, though.
In a shed in Cleckheaton full of asbestos. That's the pinnacle of my career.
Until we do the next one. But yeah, what I was going to say is that like, that was my motivation for it. So for me, like for people to, if people say I can't do something, it makes me very, very likely to go and try do it, you know?
Yeah.
So like if I go to an event and I knew as well because I did really bad in I did the gyoza contest in LA, right? And that is a massive contest as well. And I don't know what it was. I just had a proper shit day. I was fucking terrible, right? I think I finished 10th at that out of 20, and I should have done so much better, right? And that was going to be my last. That was in August, I think, or early September. And that was in my head. That was going to be the last event I did that year. And I thought, I can't end like that because I started really well. I finished like 4th in my first event, 3rd at Oysters, 4th, I think, at Strawberry Shortcake, which is another contest, which was fun for me, right? Because it's desserts, cake. First at my qualifier, I qualified for Nathan's, which like no other British person had ever done on British soil, on American soil. So I was like, oh, I'm riding a wave. And then I got lax before the gyoza contest, came 10th. I thought, I don't want to end with, like a 10th place. So I kind of came into the Poutine one, knowing that like Matt would be there, Joey would be there, and like all the best would be there. I'm thinking, right, I'm throwing down here, right? I'm doing the best I can. So coming, and it's weird because coming to that event, I never really get nervous before them, but there's like a sense of apprehension, before you go on stage and you think you don't want to make a dick of yourself. But before that event, you can see there's actually a video, I think on the video that I posted of it, I got like Lynn's watching, Lynn's took a screenshot of like me coming out on stage and I'm like, I'm doing this weird dance to the music. I don't know why. I'm just like wiggling and everyone's like booing and I'm just like going out on stage trying to wind them up and you're playing the heel a little bit. But I don't get it. If the more people boo, probably the better I'm going to do. That was supposed to rhyme, but
so you just mentioned then like you don't want to make an idiot of yourself, but like what the repercussions of a bad day at the office for you are pretty extreme. Like has anybody actually like died or almost died in an eating competition? Like, because I know we joke about it like almost being like this fun sort of thing, but like that shit can get real. Like surely it can.
Yeah, man. In contests it can. It's funny because like, well, not funny, but people die all the time doing eating contests, but it's never major league eating contests, right? Because it's typically people that are, quotes, professional competitive eaters or whatever. People that are good enough to compete in major league eating know well enough their own limitations, right? And what they can do and what they can't do. And I think a lot of time when you hear about people dying, which is really sad, like there was one a couple of years ago, I think like on a uni campus or something, where a person had died, I think in Australia, they died eating like some kind of, I think it was like a sponge cake or something. And they died because at this event where they didn't have they weren't allowed water, right? So like, which is mad, right? When I hear about like a contest or like some kind of food challenge at the restaurant and they don't allow any kind of liquids, you're just asking for someone to die because like the easiest way, if I'm choking, I know how to save myself. There's very little chance of me actually dying by choking, right? I know how to save myself.
Well, then how's that?
Well, the first thing I'd do is like, if I was actually choking, I'd probably try and, I'd drink water first, right? So I just push as much as I put, like normally at contests, it's you get bottles, ones you can crunch up. So I just push it in as much as I could.
So like pressure to push it down.
And if that didn't work, then I'd probably you could kind of do like a self Heimlich, right, where you push your stomach upwards or something like that. It's unlikely that would, I think anyway, that would ever choke. I've been close once or twice, and just because I've swallowed too much, like in the heat of the moment or whatever. But not to the point that like I'm actually in fear of my life.
Is that like from a technical standpoint? When we see on your videos, you're scrunching stuff up in your hands and then you're like taking up. Is it because you know exactly the quantity that you can sort of not have to chew? Do you have to chew it or not chew and then just swallow it? Is that the thing?
Yeah. So it's everyone has like a different style of eating, I think. But like for me, it's like a methodical thing. So I'll bite and then swallow. So I only bite the amount that I know I can. If in a contest, I'll only bite the amount that I can swallow. So you'll see, depending on what I'm eating, it'll be like drink.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is it's almost like you're not really eating it, right? You just bite it and then you kind of keep pushing it down with water, right? Yeah. But then there are other people who are like way risky, right? That you see like some of the stuff that, like, I've seen a woman eat a piece of meat the size of a fist. I'm not even taking the piss. I'm being serious, right? And I think maybe that's just like a mentality thing. But when I go on stage, I'm thinking I'm not dying for the sake of competitive eating, right? I'm not a lunatic. to me, like it's not more important than your life, right? And I think there's a weird sense of enthusiasm amongst people that like it becomes like a sport,
Yeah.
Like there was a famous study done a few years ago that interviewed, I think, Olympic athletes, and they said like if it cost you your life to get a gold medal, would you take that? And they'd be like, yeah, that's fine. They were that dedicated to it, and I think there are people that are kind of that zoned in.
Yeah.
In every walk of life that they would do it. For me, no. Like, I'm there to have fun, to see people, to put on a show, but compete to the best of my ability. That does not involve me dying, right? But whenever you hear about people dying, it's almost always at like amateur events where they thought, we'll put on this eating contest, not have like an EMT. Like at Emily, you have like about 6 EMTs, like paramedics at every event. So like if you do start choking, then you're probably going to be saved, or they at least might know how to do a
tracheotomy.
Yeah, so you'd probably be all right. But
could you imagine? It's mad that we're even talking about this in relation to just competitive eating.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, like there are dangers in every. I don't say against sport, but like there are dangers in every activity.
Yeah.
I think for me though, I could never see that. Like I would never get to the point where I think I need to win this so bad I am prepared to risk swallowing a chunk of food which is too large for me to potentially swallow. So it's really all about just technique and repetition than I think, risking that. I mean, it wouldn't be on ESPN if there was a risk of somebody like dying, because so like all the top 20 kind of pretty much know their limitations, I think.
We can cut this out if you don't want to use it, but did you once tell me that you saw somebody eat chicken wings with bone in? So like just swallowed a chicken wing?
I didn't see it, but I like in the golden age of Major League Eating, right? So like about 15 years ago when it was first becoming really popular, a bit before like YouTube was like a massive thing, there were a bunch of like really, really good competitive eaters who were getting by like on their prize money, right? So that was how the events were really competitive.
So they've had mortgages to pay, so they're like, I'm having this.
Yeah, so I was, somebody told me, I won't say who because I don't want to dig them out, right? But somebody told me they had seen Joey at a contest.
Yeah.
A chicken wing eating contest, right? It's neck and neck, pretty much, right? Because at this time, there's 3 or 4 competitive eaters who are about the same, right? So every event's somebody different winning. And they'd look across and Joey's, you get to like the last minute maybe, and that's when that kind of...
Fight or flight.
Yeah, fight or flight. That kind of instinct comes in. Like I remember at Poutine, I must have almost thrown up about 3 or 4 times in the last minute. But you kind of just pushing past that, because in the last minute it's kind of like the crowd's hyped up. And like,
that's the most dangerous time then. Last minute.
Probably. But like, so he looked across, he sees Joey, and Joey just kind of he realizes everyone's pretty much neck and neck, and he wants to get ahead, so he starts fucking throating these. Like, I don't know how many, but like some chicken wings with bones in them, right? So this is an anecdote, right? I didn't see this. I don't know if it's true, but like the person that told me
it's a legend.
They're a trustworthy source, right? So I can imagine, and this dude treats it like it is like there's a documentary about Joey Chestnut and another guy called Takeru Kobayashi, who pretty much were they were the godfathers of modern day competitive eating, right? There's a documentary about them that was on ESPN. And it showed Joey's training routine, man. And he's like, he'll wake up in the morning and he's like, you ever see those jaw exercise balls?
Yeah.
You can put them in, you chew. And he's dangling like a fucking 5 kilo plate off it or something. And he's like, that's why they call him Joey Jaws Chestnut, right? And I'm thinking, man, I don't have it in me. Like, I always think of myself as, do you watch tennis?
No.
Right, there's a guy, one of my favorite tennis players, a dude called Nick Kyrgios, right? And I think like that's like I'm like the Nick Kyrgios of competitive eating because like he's like slightly talented, right? He's top. I think he's like ranked in the top 40 or something. Bit of a joker, plays off with the crowd a lot, and enjoys his tennis, right? And makes a decent-ish living from it, right? Yeah. And he'll always get interviewed at the end of matches, and they'll be like, "Oh, Nick, you're such a good player. Do you ever think you'll win like a Grand Slam, like Wimbledon or the US Open?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "What? Isn't that kind of defeatist?" He's like, "No, man, it's tennis. It's like I don't have what it takes to do what Nadal and Federer and Djokovic do, and like wake up at 5 and play tennis all day. It's like I've got a fucking life to live, And I think it's the same like with me, Like I could never imagine because I wouldn't put that much effort into something that people respect, let alone fucking competitive eating, Like so to me, it's funny because people are saying, "Oh yeah, Adam, you could beat Joey at Nathan's." I'm like, man, this dude dedicated his life to eating. That ain't gonna be me. I dedicate my life to entertaining people. Yeah. That's all right. And I can do that with relative safety. It doesn't take over my entire life. But I think the day I'm waking up in the morning, like putting some weights in my mouth and going, I mean, I just have to call it quits.
Just to finish this off then, what are the repercussions of a chicken bone going through the digestive system? Because surely, I mean, like you watch these documentaries where people have been like murdered in the woods. After years, the bones are still there. So I'm pretty sure that your body itself cannot like get rid of it, so it would have to pass through the organs, surely. Imagine coming out sideways.
It's coming out one way or the other. I don't know, but I try not to think about it. But that's the whole kind of crazy part of it that like I don't really. I think that's what you have to be that nuts. I think to be that good, because I think there are guys that like I was amazed at when I managed because I remember at the Poutine Contest again. I remember that one being kind of like a bit of a watershed moment because I thought everyone's always saying, "Oh, yeah, you'll never beat Matt," because he's one of the greatest of all time, right? And that's not that's indisputable, right? Yeah. And I'm not for a second saying that I'm as good as Matt. I'm not, right? He's a far better competitive eater than me. But my whole point was that like I wanted to get there and show I could mix it with him. Yeah. And the fact that like Matt beat me twice that season, I beat him once. It's kind of like you're in there,
Yeah, your name's in the hat, innit?
But I think that's only because I think kind of Matt's probably of the same opinion as me now. Like it takes a lot to push to like win stuff like that, and it takes a lot out of your body and a lot of practice. It's not even just like the physical effects, the time it takes. Like Joey will practice 4 times a week or something eating hot dogs.
Yeah. For
like 3 months before Nathan's. Like it's ridiculous.
If anybody's like listening or watching this and they've not seen a lot of Joey Chestnut, just get on TikTok. He's got a TikTok now with Joey Chestnut, and it's literally like, like I think the maximum's a minute, and it just. It's that funny voice on TikTok. Can Joey eat this? And it's like a pizza in like 30 seconds. And he's like nails it. Or like, can Joey eat 12 hot dogs in 60 seconds? He's like,
Why is he on TikTok? And why is he not creating more stuff on YouTube, man? That's where the coin's at.
I don't know, but he's on there. So if you want to see it, check out Joey Chestnut on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, but to be at that, it's like I think it's probably like in any quote sport, right? That like the top.
You keep quotes.
Well, I do it. The reason I do that though is because people scoff at it. Though it's not a sport. I'm like, yeah, I'm not.
This is your TV show. This is your podcast.
I don't think darts is a sport though. That's the thing. I don't think competitive eating is a sport. Yeah. It's a discipline which takes a lot of skill, and it takes far more fitness than it does to be a top class darts player.
True that.
Look, I hate darts, right? But I understand why people like it, and there's a lot of skill involved in it. But it's not a sport, man. Like I don't think F1 is a sport. I don't think snooker is a sport. But we say that they're sports. So if those are sports. Probably competitive eating is a sport. It takes as much effort.
100%, yeah.
But I think you just most of us can't get anywhere near those the top 10. Not 10. Most of us can't get anywhere near the top 3 guys.
Mate, this has been a fascinating conversation. I'm sure we've dispelled many myths because I know how many messages you get about this sort of thing. Have you got any final comments about the whole eating game? Anything else you wanted to touch on? What have we covered everything that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's that interesting. I only really did this because people asked me to talk about what it's like. But yeah, it's not. I think people maybe think they attach it too much to the whole YouTube part, right?
Yeah.
When the act of being a competitive eater doing contests is not
completely different.
It's not glamorous, right? And you have to be really good to make money from it. You can make really good coin if you're really good at it, but it's more about like the events are insane, And when you see, if you go up on a stage and you're about to eat hot dogs, you see 35,000 people in the crowd. Some people, as far as the eye can see, I think that's like full capacity at Ellen Road, right? Pretty much 38,000 there.
Yeah.
And I think, man, I wouldn't watch football from that distance, let alone some idiot eating hot dogs,
especially your size.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been like, you know what's so funny about that though is, I think they did this on purpose. At that event, they put me next to, I was between a guy called George Chigger and another dude called Gideon Oji. And Gideon is like fucking 7 feet. He makes you look tiny. And George is up taller than you as well. He's probably 6'8" or something. Yeah. And people were like messaging me, like watching the contest. They were like, "We didn't realize you were so small." I'm like, I'm like 5'10", but these guys are giants, you know.
It looks like they brought one of the kids with them, a little hairy kid.
Yeah, that's what it did look like. But that was that was the time as well though with all the cameras. The after party is the best thing about competitive eating, right? Because there's a lot of people think
the smell on that bus. Oh my god!
But a lot of people think there's like proper animosity, you know, between people that compete, and it's weird. I think it's because we're all kind of like-mindedly odd in that we do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
That everyone likes each other, you know. So, and the after parties are mad. A lot of people won't know. There's a guy called Badlands Booker who has a YouTube channel called Badlands Chugs. Yeah. Who's like, I think he's on like 3 million subs now.
Is he?
Yeah, but he's like a rapper. In fact, to get to Nathan's, I beat Badlands, right? And I felt so bad because he'd qualified for like 20 years in a row, and I was the first guy to come along and like
knock him off.
And we were outside City Field, baseball stadium. And I beat him, and I'm like, oh man, I felt bad because he's such a nice dude. But yeah, the after party, we're at this bar, and he's like rapping because he's like a rapper as well, right? He does a bunch of songs, and there's like, it was surreal because you got him rapping, and then you've got I remember Stoney came in as well. It was I know I keep mentioning him, but that's because he's the most relatable person people are gonna know. But I remember he's like, Beard, do you want a drink? And he buys me like a Guinness, probably because he thinks, because I've got an Irish surname or whatever, I'm into Guinness, and it's like there's a really kind of positive environment, you know.
It must be nice as well, like, because what a culture shift to be like a Brit going into an American-dominated environment, to be able to just see, because I know when I'm in America, that's what I love the most, is just seeing how they interact, like, the different sort of music scenes, like all that sort of thing. So for you to get thrown in as just this little hairy Brit.
I love that though. Yeah. That's part of I think that's part of the gimmick that's why I think Major League Eating let me join in the first place. Part of it is, like a little bit of transatlantic rivalry and stuff. They can see, because there aren't many. There's one Japanese guy, there's one Canadian guy, and me. We're pretty much the only internationals in there right now. I think Noah Zissa's there. She's like an Aussie, but she doesn't really compete. No, she's from New Zealand actually. Yeah, I love that though, because like I would love to go. It probably would be a bit much, but like turning up to Nathan's in like I don't know, like a crown or something, or like with
play up to it.
Or like I wanted to take on like some like tea, some some fine china, because there was a game when the in 2019 when the USA, like I think the women's football team were taking the piss out of the English team by doing like a tea celebration. I think. I thought that'd be fun. Instead, I had to settle for Union Jack. Not that I'm like a nationalist or anything. I'm far from it. But Union Jack, like wristbands and stuff. I like that. You kind of get off on being a bit of a heel. It's kind of like wrestling,
That's what Tyson Fury did though in his recent fight, didn't he? He came out in a crown and like I reckon he could play that.
Yeah, especially if when it's American dominated. Part of the buzz is it's kind of like being an international rep, right? It's like being in the Olympics or something daft like that, because you're out there for your country, right? And especially when you got people who are really good. Like in my first, second, third contest, beating people that were ranked like 12th, 7th, 4th, as a British dude, it kind of feels like you're kind of rocking the boat a bit. And that's just fun to me,
Mate, it's class. And I see you've got the number 1 spot in the UK, so you're winning it.
That's not hard though, because I'm the only person that competes.
Any final comments, Mr. Beard, about this whole scene?
No, not really. I think maybe just like we'll do something more. I don't find it that interesting, so I think maybe the next. If you want to hear anything else about it, let us know. But next episode we'll probably talk about something which I find more fun. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Those that are listening and watching, check us out on Spotify. We're pushing for that Spotify gig. We're ranking, so we need to keep pushing up that ranking.
This episode might do that. Might do that some harm. You never know.
Alan Carr might go above us now. Bollocks.
Yeah. Above Alan Carr though.
Yeah.
Always want to be on top of Alan Carr.
And on that note, we will follow us on social media at Breaking Bread PD. You can find Beard at Beard Meets Food, me at the Josh Gudgeon, and catch you on the next one. Peace.